Good night and welcome to the Sinaida Moya Show, brought to you through the courtesy of Zitra International, Universal Hardware, Smart Belize, and Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. I am your host, Sinaida Moya, and I want to thank you for tuning in. As a background for today's show, since this is our first episode here on CREM Television, I want to inform those of you who may be new to the show that this show focuses on national issues, particularly issues that affect the economic prosperity of Belize. As some of you may know, I am an economist. I've been a trade union leader, a head of department in the government service, and of course an elected official. And so I feel very strongly that everyone should keep abreast as to what is happening and affecting them in a manner that they can make better decisions. So tonight, we're going to be having a very interesting and very important show. We'll be discussing with the president of the Belize Tourism Industry Association, BTIA, NGO Senator, Mr. Osmany Salas, on my right, and BTIA's Executive Director, Mr. John Burgos, on my left. We'll be discussing the possible impacts on the tourism industry and on the wider economy as it regards to a recently passed Senate rejected, I have to say it was a Senate rejected but still introduced Protected Areas Conservation Trust development fee. Now it's a fee that's Belize $32.50 that would be levied on all visitors that are exiting the air transportation exits, airports. And this is a tax that would, according to the BTIA, would increase along with the current conservation fee, which is Belize $7.50, would increase Belize's departure tax per visitor from US $39.25 to a US $59.25, or Belize $118.50. According to the BTIA, this would be the second highest in Central America, and of course one of the higher ones also in the Caribbean. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel very strongly about this topic because I myself, if you don't know, have been doing some work in the tourism industry, and I know I come into contact with tourists every day. So I know that how they make their plans, what may impact them, and we definitely know how important it is because we see a lot of people being gainfully employed through this medium, directly and indirectly. And so definitely tourism is important, but when it comes to affecting the overnight tourists, to many Belizeans, they would say, you know what, that's extremely, extremely important. All right? So before we go on, I want to also inform our viewers that CREM Television, it's live on CREM Television, and it's usually live on the Sinaida Moya Facebook page. We will ensure that it's also posted on the Sinaida Moya Show YouTube channel as well, so that you can always review the show. And we will be accepting texts, and I'll be reviewing them during the break. So you'll be able to text at 628-9494. Again, that's 628-9494. So I want to, first of all, ask, what all entities comprise the Belize Tourism Industry Association?
Well, when it comes to the structure of our membership, we have from small hotels to large hotels. We have restaurants, tour operators, tour guides, chocolate companies, And of course, we have an individual membership category as well.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the overview of the entire composition, I would say about 80% of our membership is small and medium enterprises.
Okay. Okay. So definitely, when you talk about small and medium enterprise, it's definitely persons who we wouldn't want anything to affect them, particularly their livelihood. They may not be able to recover from it. And I guess sometimes we do see it on the news. You'll have smaller operators in the tourism industry. They're out behind a podium and they're trying to ensure that their voices are heard, no?
You're welcome to join the family too. You know.
Definitely.
You're in the tourism business.
Yes, I have to. I have to. I have to.
So tomorrow I can imagine Mr. Burgos will send you an application form.
Definitely, I have to. I've been a little bit busy, but these things I have to ensure I also fill out and do. So definitely. Osmany, you and I go way back. I recall when I was an economist in the Ministry of Economic Development. That's like 1997. I started as an economist.
Yeah.
I sat on the PAC Advisory Council. Even
we both sat.
Yeah, we sat, and I mean, I was also the chairperson at one point, and I know how very important PAC is, no? Extremely important, and I know that the environment. When they talk about Belize's best kept secret, a lot of times that best kept has to do with the protection of our natural resources as well, no? Because if it was all squandered, if it was all affected in a detrimental manner, I don't think we would be calling best kept at all, no? So to a great extent, I think that PAC, we have certain entities that are known for doing good things, Audubon Society, many different entities. I won't go into all of them. I know Apama has been doing their thing as well. And they, Coastal Zone Management Authority, there have been many entities along with the government departments, Fisheries Department and Environment Department, those that have tried to ensure that the environment, you know, is intact and it helps the tourism industry. Okay, so I want to know how important, it may seem, you know, like, well, it's important, but I want to know how important is the environment to the tourism industry of Belize and the wider economy?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Zenaida, for having us here tonight.
Yes.
I must say this is almost like deja vu in that you and I are talking about PACT, and as you said, it was around 97 or so.
Yes.
We both sat on the advisory council.
Yes.
That was around the very beginning of PACT, if you recall.
Was,
because PACT was founded in 1996.
96.
So we were there at the very beginning.
At the very beginning, we were there.
Yeah, you know, I have this whole question about PACT and the PACT legislation, yes, and the amendment to the Act to introduce this development fee. Yes. Has hit close to home for me, because as I was implying just now, we have been involved from before the beginning at PACT.
Yes.
I remember I was at Belize Audubon Society at the time.
Yes.
And involved in all the consultations that ended up creating the legislation for PACT. So PACT was created as this model, this financing model for protected areas and conservation projects. And I remember clearly, I was part of a Belize delegation that went to the World Parks Congress in Durban, South Africa it was about 2003 or so, and PACT was hailed as a model for the world.
Nice.
You know, a conservation trust which would get its income from a portion of departure tax and a portion of cruise passenger fees. Up to now, that has been the bulk of the income for PACT. So that was hailed as a model.
Yes.
So when this bill was introduced to create this development fee, I in a way I almost took it personal, in that I saw it as a tinkering of that, a very good legislation.
Yes.
For a purpose that would not go to serve the needs and the interests that the trust was designed for.
Yes.
So to answer your question, and we could go back into the discussion on the amendments, but to answer your question, the environment, nature forms an integral part of the tourism product.
Yes.
That is the basis, the foundation of our tourism industry,
Yes.
our Blue Hole,
Yes.
our Half Moon Key, our
Mhm.
Barrier Reef, our,
Mhm.
you know, and there are 7 or so sites along our Barrier Reef that form part of our World Heritage Site.
Yes.
Belize is only World Heritage Site, which unfortunately is in the danger list right now.
Oh, wow.
And that could be a whole other discussion by itself.
Yes.
But yes, Coxcomb Basin, we have hailed it as the world's forest or only jaguar reserve, and all these areas
All
form
those
the
areas.
basis. So yes, to answer your question, the environment, natural areas, they are the foundation of our tourism industry to a great extent.
Yeah, because as I was mentioning to you gentlemen earlier, I have to work a lot with tourists, and so the first thing they ask for are tours.
Of course.
Oh yeah,
Well, yeah.
aware
Yes.
to natural areas.
Yes,
for the
to
most
natural
part.
areas. They're not asking about going to the nightclubs and places. They want to go see Belize. They
Yes,
want to
yes,
see the beautiful natural resources, different natural attractions that we have. So that's the
Yes.
first thing they ask about tours.
Mhm.
And so I definitely can understand and appreciate how important it is. Now, I also know that as a tourist, as someone who has been a tourist in different other countries, what I look at also is how much is the departure fee. I have done it, I've looked at it, and when I see too high, I get upset. I get very upset, I'm like, why? Why is it so much? But in the case of if they're offering a particular product, then some people will understand, but there's always a particular limit that they will go. Having said that, in your position paper, all right, that was sent out, I believe, March 15, 2017, you stated about possible negative impacts to growth in tourism. You said that the implementation of this increase in the departure tax could cause, no? You said you mentioned the fact that how expensive it's already expensive for a family or a group of visitors coming into Belize, all right, with the departure tax. So if it's increased, it would be one of the highest in the Central American and Caribbean region. You also mentioned that countries like the Bahamas and Costa Rica had rescinded their proposals for increasing departure fees due to the negative impacts it would generate in their tourism industry. And you said Belize needs to take heed. Now, I want to know why did you say Belize needs to take heed? I mean, perhaps you haven't. I don't know if you all have already done some level of study, or that's what you were trying to do, not look at the ramifications, the possible ramifications of what has happened in other countries. But have you looked at any of the ramifications in other countries?
I could mention.
Yes.
In this, there's so many issues that we could discuss that are relevant to this particular topic. But I must share with you. No, I mean the answer to your question about studies is no.
Okay.
And to a great extent, that is why, as an association, we were not able to support this increase in departure taxes. No analysis was done as to the potential ramifications, as we put it,
Yes.
and there was no consultation with the industry and the stakeholders, other than the House committee that at which a public hearing happens, which is very limited. You're
Yes.
just limited to a presentation. It's not
Yes.
really a public hearing.
No, it's not.
So other than that, there was no consultation with the industry. Nobody reached out to BTIA or to our members, and there was no analysis done.
Yes.
We have seen everything happen very fast as well. And we understand the government was hard pressed to come up with new revenue measures. They had to come up with something.
Pay their loans
And so they came up with this suite of revenue measures, right?
Yes.
So it caught even people within government by surprise, and obviously, people in our industry. So since then, we have come across articles from the UK, international level articles, that the consensus is that increasing departure taxes is not the wise way to go. It's not the way to go.
Yeah.
Right across the border in Mexico, they attempted to do that and they rescinded. They realized this could affect arrivals from the US to Mexico. The UK has done extensive studies on that.
Yes.
Australia has done extensive studies on that.
Okay.
And it all gets to the same conclusion. That, and in Belize, we see a move towards bringing low-fare airlines to the country.
Yes.
Like
Southwest.
like Southwest.
We haven't had JetBlue as yet, but
there are efforts to bring in other low-fare airlines. So it might appear that $16.25 US is not much, but in this new era, new environment of low-fare airlines,
it does.
Everything comes.
It does. So when I remember clearly that when our representative presented our position at the House Committee, one of the senior government officials said, "Come on, 1625. How will that stop anybody from coming to Belize?" So immediately that made us realize no studies were done.
And they don't understand. They're not putting themselves in the shoe of a family that may be of 8 or 7.
It adds up.
Does everybody have to pay a tax?
Yes.
Every individual. That's what I was getting. Every individual.
Non-Belizean.
Every non-Belizean.
Every international visitor that comes to Belize at the moment they exit.
So a family of 6.
That departs from air, right?
Yes.
That departs from air. 6 of them would pay departure tax, and that's how it adds up. Whoever that was, that's how it adds up.
One of the points that we mentioned on the position paper was that we live in when you're talking about tourism, you're talking about a global market.
Yes.
You cannot think just regionally. You have to think worldwide. You're competing with the world.
You're competing with the world.
You look in Central America. We are by far one of the most expensive destinations. The rates of our hotels, even the flights coming here are expensive than our competitors. Now, what are we doing? In making it more expensive. No, you look at Mexico. Our number 1 market of visitors coming into Belize is the US.
Yes.
So, no, you increases the departure tax, which is going to affect how you think about bringing a family of 5, 6, even 3 or 4 family members. So now he says, you know what? The departure tax I can spend for 4 or 5 of my family members. I can spend an extra 2 nights in Mexico. Extra 2 nights in Cuba.
Yep.
It's cheaper for me to fly to Cuba.
Yes.
See, these are the elements that we need to take into consideration before we can make the decision of increasing the departure tax.
And you know, if they are not thinking about it as a tourist, perhaps they can think about it as going to a nightclub. Many nightclubs, they will have, they lower the entrance fee or they eliminate it, some entities, so you can go in and you spend.
You make the money after.
You make the money afterwards. That's where you make the money. The entrance can deter people from even going there. Oh man, I can go to so and so place. I can instead of spending $25 to enter, I can spend that $25 and more, way more, because when they 25 man, they want to spend way more.
You can look at right now, a cruise passenger that comes into Belize, on average spends $77 US, on average. Now the overnight tourist who flies in, who is going to be directly affected with the departure tax, spends $155 US. You see the difference there?
Yes.
So now you're punishing the ones spending 2, 3, 4 nights in Belize to the ones that are coming. You can make that comparison, as you rightfully pointed out with the
And you're quite right when
analogy.
it comes to that.
Yes.
That's the overnight tourists. Definitely, I told you. They come in, they spend on hotels, stays, they go do all kinds of different things they want to do. They want to go eat local, they go on their tours.
You know what's interesting, Ganaida? And we get roughly about 350,000 overnight visitors to Belize, about 1 million cruise passengers. What's interesting is, why didn't they go after the cruise passengers? Why didn't they try to increase the head passenger tax? Well, I mean, we know some of the reasons for that, but they keep coming at the overnight industry which is really the lifeblood of our industry.
Yeah, that's a cash cow.
That it is, and it
It's a cash
really
cow.
is the largest employer that we have right now. It's the mainstay of our
It is.
economy, and not only direct employment and direct contribution, but all the indirect,
That's right.
benefits as well.
That's right.
So we cannot. I've been hearing views on the other side of this as well from some very good friends of mine that I highly respect, but they don't get it because they are looking at it with sort of
Blinders.
blinders. Yeah, this needs to be critically analyzed. And
They need to come in the shoe of perhaps yourself, or possibly even myself who deals with
Yeah.
tourists to understand how these people think. If they do that, one of these days maybe you have to invite them, maybe for a week and see how these people, because
Yeah.
it's a different thing when you're actually practicing it,
yeah.
rather than you just speak about it
But
so theoretically.
a key point to repeat and to reiterate is that when introducing new revenue measures, and we're talking about this departure fee right now, it is so important to do your analysis, to do your studies. I'm looking right now at a report from Australia on border fees, charges, and taxes. They went in depth. They looked at so many other countries to understand the dynamics, to understand the ramifications and the consequences.
Yes.
And they decided, no, departure fees, we either need to have it low or do away with it altogether and come up with other ways to raise the monies that you need. So this
Osmany,
was not thought out. Yes,
I want us to go more in depth in that area, because perhaps we need to discuss that. Because we can come up and say, okay, let's not do that. But perhaps there's other ways that maybe government can get the same money, but in a different way that can help them. We're going to go to our first ad break, and when we come back, we'll discuss further about possible ways of maybe boosting up the revenues for government in particular areas. We'll be back.
The circle starts with solid support and a smile. This is real life, with its ups and its downs. This is going the extra mile, and the feeling you get when you can help someone along their journey. Through the twists and turns, we're here. This is Western Union, making sure your support reaches its destination. This is Western Union, moving money for better.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Coulson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.realestatebz.com.
The Smart Booth is the place to be at Agric 2017. The first 50 persons to visit our booth can purchase the LG Optimus Zone 3 for only $50. Now that's a deal! Take advantage of sweet deals from flip phones to MiFis to touch screens and home phones, all available only at our Smart Booth. Look out for the powerful Samsung S7 and S7 Edge and the sleek iPhone 7 and 7 Plus on sale. But wait, the deals don't stop there. You can trade in and upgrade, double and triple up at the Smart Booth.
Hold up, this just in.
We'll also be having a blowout sale. Devices as low as what? $49 and data phones as low as $75? Now, with all these deals happening, we don't know how long they'll last. So don't miss out. Visit the Smart Booth at Agric 2017 because, well, smart does love.
Welcome back to the Senator Moya Show. We have as our guest Senator Osmany Salas, President of the BTIA and Senator of NGOs. We have Executive Director of the BTIA, Mr. John Burgos. Now, before we went to the ad break, we were having a very good discussion, and I wanted to ask about a country such as Australia. We were always talking about Australia because we always say we have the second longest barrier reef. Sometimes I try to say the longest barrier reef in Western Hemisphere, just so I don't bring up Australia. Sorry, whoever of my Australia friends are watching. But yeah, I start to get all selfish and territorial. Belize. Australia, they tried to do something similar. Was it Australia?
Well, yes, as I was sharing with you a couple of years ago, this is quite recent,
Yes.
Australia did what they call a joint review of border fees, charges and taxes. They actually looked at the gamut of fees, not
Yes.
only departure, but visa fees and a suite of passenger movement charges.
Yes.
And they gave a couple interesting examples. One that is cited is the example of Holland, where the Dutch government levied for international routes a departure fee of 45 euros, right? Which would be roughly about hours, like it's like
Yep, 50.
150 Belize or something like that. And the year after that, they registered a decrease in arrivals of 2 million. 2 million.
2 million.
The Dutch
Wow.
government then repealed the tax. And following the removal of that tax, air transport grew rapidly again.
Wow.
And the country's main airport had high figures after that. They went back up to 50 million arrivals. And
Yes.
so, and they give other examples. For example, in Mexico,
Yes.
they cite the example of Mexican legislators voting down an increase to their departure tax because they were concerned how that would affect arrivals from the US.
Yes.
And there are many examples from around the world. Malta, the UK has done extensive
Costa
studies.
Rica.
Costa Rica, closer to
Right.
home.
Yes.
Honduras and Guatemala are trying to come up with some innovative ways of
Yes.
increasing visits between the two countries.
By reducing the
Well, tell me
fees.
something. By bringing more people into the country, so like what happened with Australia, you know, the taxes, was it reduced or was it rescinded? Was it repealed? But the point is, even if it was reduced or repealed, the point is that would allow or encourage more people to come in. So there's more spending, so there's a broader tax base.
Of course.
So that in and of itself would balance or equalize whatever. So
Yeah.
that perhaps needs to be looked at, that yeah, you are trying to get taxes from this side, but then you're closing the door, you're literally closing the gate. You don't want the gate closed, open the gate, bring in people, have them be happy and merry and go and shop and get all the services from our Belizeans.
Just to share, sorry. go
You
ahead.
can tax the taxi services. I mean, you're already doing it, but the point is you don't have that much services if you don't have these people. So now you'll have more services, broader base to tax.
It would be important to share a few figures.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
mention about recently looking at a small report that came to my knowledge with regards to the Easter holidays of the number of Belizeans traveling to Mexico. You notice that Mexico is more than ready and willing to open their borders to Belizeans. They even provide
facilitate it.
Facilitate it. They even provide you with a Mexican
Yes.
card to travel to Quintana Roo without having to pay any departure
Yes,
tax.
I saw that.
You know,
indeed.
so just looking at the
Yes.
figures, an estimated 30,000 Belizeans went over Mexico during the Easter break.
Wow.
On average, $200 is spent by each Belizean. So you calculate that, you're talking about $12 million that went over to
Went
the border.
over there.
6 million.
So you know, looking at that, you know that this is something that Belizeans love to do. Go to
Yes.
Mexico because you get more for the value of the
Yes.
money.
So
Definitely.
you can only imagine
Yeah.
that is lost revenue to Belize.
Last revenue.
Because we need to determine ways to keep Belizeans in Belize. Of course, there are many reasons why Belizeans choose to cross the border. Mexico, other than areas for recreation,
They
of
go
course, so
for
many
their
other
McDonald's
opportunities.
and
There you go, the mall or whatever.
the mall.
But the thing is, We need to make our areas more accessible, more affordable.
Bring in the
And-
Mexicans.
Yes, bring in the Mexicans. Bring in the Mexicans.
Millions of them.
Mexicans are known to travel by families.
Yes.
They're going to have a family of 5, 10, 15 members moving along together.
Come on, Mexicans.
When you go to Mexico, you see people in Bacalar, in Calderitas there. You see the buses of Mexicans from other states.
Yes.
Because they don't know this side of Mexico. So, they're so close.
Yes.
But due to the policies at the border, we don't make it accessible.
I have to say kudos to our ambassador to Mexico,
Oliver
His
Del
Excellency
Cid.
Oliver Del Cid.
Hi, Oliver.
Yes, hello, Oliver. But
He watches the show too, Oliver.
I hope he's watching
does.
right now.
He does.
His office, or embassy there, has really taken it up as a initiative
Yes.
to promote Belize in and around Mexico City.
Yes.
And the Facebook page that they have created for Belize has gained a tremendous following through the support of the embassy and working collaboratively with us, BTIA, and also with BHA.
Yes.
We have brought in Mexican travel agents and press agents to Belize on familiarization visits.
Excellent.
We focus on northern Belize and on southern and western Belize and want to continue. So he's pushing hard.
Yes.
Now, I've been fascinated with Mexico City, and I was there briefly many years ago, but a few months ago I went for an extended stay.
Yes.
And what I saw really impressed me. A couple of key things. One, there are a lot of people in Mexico that have spending power, that love to travel. I saw that Mexicans love to travel. I went on a couple of tours, and my wife and I were the only foreigners. The tours were packed with Mexicans visiting their own country from different states in Mexico, and they were spending. And I spoke to a few of the tour operators, and they were asking about Belize.
Yeah.
They asked me, for example, what can I do with 20,000 pesos in Belize? And we did a calculation, and we said, boy, you could do a lot.
Yes.
A 3, 4, 5 night stay. Of course
What is
not.
20,000 I haven't been to
well, I need to do the
Chetumal in a little
calculation.
while. Is
It's
that
about 80 right now. 8 to 1.
Okay.
8 to 1.
Yeah, it's about $2,500
Man,
dollars.
that's a good amount of money.
Yeah, check
We
it
want
out.
that
So,
to come to Belize.
and he told me, and this is a tour guide that worked along with the company that on which we went on the tour. He said every year he takes a trip
yes.
to a nearby country or another state, and that's his budget, 20,000 pesos. Says, what can I do in Belize with this? I said, you can do a lot.
A lot.
You can do a lot, and you can visit our key sites. So we need, as John said, we need to reciprocate what Mexico does to make it, to facilitate us visiting Mexico. We need to do the same for them.
For them, yes. Because Yucatan, they always say Yucatan is one of the richest states. Isn't it like one of the richest states in Mexico?
It is.
Man, we're right next door. We're
Mexico
their
City is very
neighbor.
rich too. I mean,
So-
there's a lot of poverty too.
And there's
but
direct flight, isn't there? I know traffic has a flight as well and so
to
forth.
Chetumal, which then links up to
And
Interjet,
Cancun.
which then takes you to all
And
different
then from Cancun
locations
also.
in Mexico.
Yes. So we need to
Yes, yes.
utilize those.
So, I mean, we've been speaking also, Tropicare is one of our corporate sponsors, and we have a very close relation with them. And they have
Yes.
raised concerns. They say,
Yeah.
the government doesn't realize how this departure tax affects us. We're trying to be competitive with the ADOs that are traveling, other different tour
Yes.
operators that are coming from Cancun, from Chetumal into Belize.
And that
Yes.
is why
And these are the things you have to consider.
I
that is
hope they
why
consider-
it may have appeared very easy, fairly simple when the government came up with the idea to introduce this fee. A very easy way to generate so many more $1 million for the government coffers. Not taking time to carefully analyze the situation.
Yes.
We have Cuba nearby.
Yes.
And I have mixed feelings about Cuba in relation to how it could impact our industry. I visited there a little over a year ago, and I've heard from both sides. I've heard that Cuba is not a real threat to Belize tourism, and I've heard the other side of the picture too. I know from a few of our members, they have told us, and this is they're feeling it directly, that they're losing business to Cuba. One of them is has a company that focuses on fly fishing. He said, boy, we're losing business to Cuba. And then I've seen reports where U.S. flights to Cuba are being cut because they are not getting the numbers they expected. So we're getting mixed signals from Cuba. But the point is that with Cuba opening up, in quotes, we have to watch it carefully.
Have to watch them.
Mexico has so many attractions. I think I could take, whenever I can go on a vacation, I could make all of them be to Mexico and I will see something different every time.
Yes.
So, so Mexico is a competitor.
Yes, it is.
The Maya World area, which includes us, includes a piece of southern Mexico.
Was a place I visited when I was a young girl.
We have to watch that. So we do have, we can be very competitive. We do have a lot in a neat little package that we can offer. So we can continue to do well.
So we have to build on the fact that we're English speaking. It's easier on tourists to be able to dialogue with our Belizeans.
Yes. But we need to analyze these things carefully, and that was one of our biggest issues that we had with the introduction of this fee, and a couple of the revenue measures. And I think going into the break, we were talking about what else could be done, and I feel very, very strongly about. I think, and I have said this before publicly, that the easiest thing may seem to introduce new taxes or increase taxes. The most difficult thing is to try to plug the leaks that we have right now. Right now, our government is losing out on millions upon millions of dollars of tax revenue that it is not collecting for a whole number of reasons.
Yes.
A lot that has to do with manpower and training and corruption. And this includes GST, business tax, customs duty, and that are not being collected. So, but it is more challenging to create mechanisms and do what it takes to plug those leaks. That takes work.
More directly to the tourism industry, you have to look at the Airbnb effect also. There's a lot of entities out there running their business without being registered and without having to pay any 9% or
and they have to, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to, once you come to that entity, you're supposed to have your guests sign the registration form. Sign the register. But I want to also, we're dealing with the taxes, but I also know that statutory bodies are now required to pay 10% of their income to the government of Belize Consolidated Fund. Is that 10% from their gross or net income? Because see that's something I haven't gotten if it's gross or net, because that plays a big role.
It's gross. That's my understanding.
Wow.
It's gross.
So
so these statutory bodies will now see this as an expense that they need to account for within their account.
Really
so this is where we are very concerned with how this will be an added impact on PACT.
Yeah, I'm thinking
because
about PACT.
That is a good segue into the whole discussion on PACT. We started off saying that national parks and reserves are the basis foundation of our tourism industry.
They sure are.
We have stakeholders in protected areas, co-management NGOs, the government PACT have determined that there's a huge financing gap.
Yes.
PACT only generates about roughly $4 million a year in income.
Yes.
But the needs per annum for the protected areas to do a good job on managing the protected areas and with all that it takes is about $15+ million. So the gap is huge, right?
Yes.
And as studies have been done to say that we need to come up with different measures to narrow that gap.
Yes.
And one of them, I must say, has been to look at the departure tax itself.
Okay.
But what we call the PACT fee or the conservation tax, it is currently $375 US.
Yes.
Back in the mid-90s, when you and I were involved at PACT, the proposal had been to make that $20 US. But there was an outcry in the industry, in the tourism industry, and it was whittled down to $375. Now, what is important to point out is that I think if we would want, we probably had the opportunity to increase the conservation fee.
Yes.
To help narrow that gap to manage our national parks and have a better product if we link it to tourism industry.
And truly have all that money go towards
consulting with the industry and getting their buy-in and their
Yes.
support. And I think many in our industry would consider supporting if they would see and they could be convinced that the revenue generated would go back into the industry, would go back into helping us to manage the foundation of our industry.
Yes.
But of course we know that the development fee does not do that.
No.
Even though
So
I have
go to the consolidated
seen a
fund.
photo of the sign that is being or has been erected at the international airport that lists the departure tax and the breakdown.
Yes.
It says packed $40. It is truly packed amendment,
true, yes.
but it does not go to packed.
Yes.
Only $750 goes, and the other $32.50 goes into the Consolidated Revenue Fund, which directly does not do anything for.
So people may
the
be
national
paying it and,
parks.
well, it's the park, they're upset, but oh my God. Okay,
It's confusing to
packed,
people
you know.
too. It is confusing too.
So in terms of the, I'm thinking also, well, BTB is another entity. Now, I'm hoping that, okay, they also have to be paying us 10%. I'm hoping they won't be looking at increasing at 9%. That 9%.
Well,
rate
my
according to
concern with Zenaida is that because this tourism industry is a highly competitive one, we are competing with other countries. We need to market our product, and that costs.
Yes.
So my concern with the 10% taken away from BTB is that that's 10% less that could go into
Yes.
marketing our country and also help with product development.
Yes.
It is critical in my mind that BTB continues to focus on product development also, but
Yes.
marketing is expensive.
It is.
We have been reaching out to North America, and now there's a reaching out to Europe.
To Europe.
A forum
Yeah, I've
has
seen
been
them with
contracted to
Europe.
help with that, the Brighter Group. And the other markets to look as well. South America, now that Copa is flying. Mexico. BTIA, our executive director, keeps sounding that bell that we
Yes.
need to look at Mexico. And believe it or not, in 2016, we only got about 5,000 Mexican tourists came to Belize. Can you imagine?
In
That's
2016, it was
little.
about 6,000. So there's a decrease.
Decrease.
Instead
And
of
yet-
an increase.
There are 120 million plus Mexicans, right?
But those tourists do not include the ones going into the free zone?
No.
Those are separate
These are,
those
yeah.
are the ones that come and spend a night.
to spend,
in
okay,
Belize.
overnight and all that. Okay.
So
because-
but
So the
on the
market
positive
is-
on the positive angle, that is a tremendous opportunity that we have.
It
We
certainly
need to
is.
go after.
Okay, we're gonna go to our second and final ad break, and when we come back, we're gonna continue discussing. I do want to touch on Mexico because Mexico is a big deal. We'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.
The Smart Booth is the place to be at Agric 2017. The first 50 persons to visit our booth can purchase the LG Optimus Zone 3 for only $50. Now that's a deal! Take advantage of sweet deals from flip phones to MiFis to touch screens and home phones, all available only at our Smart Booth. Look out for the powerful Samsung S7 and S7 Edge and the sleek iPhone 7 and 7 Plus on sale. But wait, the deals don't stop there. You can trade in and upgrade, double and triple up at the Smart Booth.
Hold up, this just in.
We'll also be having a blowout sale. Devices as low as what? $49 and data phones as low as $75? Now, with all these deals happening, we don't know how long they'll last. So don't miss out. Visit the Smart Booth at Agric 2017 because, well, smart does love.
The circle starts with solid support and a smile. This is real life. With its ups and its downs, this is going the extra mile. And the feeling you get when you can help someone along their journey. Through the twists and turns, we're here. This is Western Union, making sure your support reaches its destination. This is Western Union, moving money for better.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, Seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Coulson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.realestatebz.com.
Welcome back to the Sinaida Moya show. Let's continue our discussion. Before we left, we were discussing certain things. Mexico. Now, John, we have Mexico right at our fingertips. What else can we do to bring them? I mean, I don't want to hear about 5,000 Mexicans coming to Belize only a year. I want to hear 5 million. Here I went to 5 million, okay?
At least 50,000 would be
Okay.
a drastic change.
Move.
No, the suggestion that we're making right now, as stakeholders and representatives for the private sector, is that government needs to look at policy change at the border, at the immigration department, whereby we're going to facilitate the transition or open a border for Mexicans to be able to access Belize.
Yes.
You know, right now, Mexicans provided with that. If you have a passport, you have no issue. If you have a Mexican card, you can go into Mexico for 3-4 days without having to pay any departure tax.
Right.
I think that if we either allow them to use one of their official documents without it being a passport, for whatever reason Mexicans have a difficulty or don't see the importance of having a passport, and in many instances they don't need it.
Yes.
They have the voter's ID that is well recognized as one of the main identification documents.
And Mexico is so huge. They
Yes,
can
it
get
is.
around all over the place.
Yes, it is. So we're suggesting that we either consider providing a Belizean card where Mexicans can apply, or we either allow them to use to recognize one of their main identification, which would be the voter's ID, for them to come into Belize, and also to be able to provide them with a period of time in which they can come to Belize either 3 days, 3 nights, 4 days, without having to pay any departure tax.
I fully agree with you. When I was mayor of Belize City, I recall Mr. Valencia. I think he was the honorary consul. He was based in Chetumal. And that was one of the entities when we met with the mayor at Chetumal. That's one of the areas that they really wanted us to look at and that we were pushing. It was said there was different problems with some machine to get the card done. I mean, that machine story, that's like years. I think by now that matter should have already been dealt with. You should not have even have to mention that. That should already be implemented.
Yes.
What would it take to get that done? You know, I don't think that much.
See, like something that Osmany mentioned earlier, this is where we believe that our government is not reaching out to the stakeholders, to the private sector. If they would have conduct proper consultations, having very serious discussions about how we can improve arrivals, how we can welcome Mexicans into Belize. Not only Mexicans, also Central American citizens,
Yes.
because we like to underestimate, we like to think Belize as being a little bit better than other countries, but we have to realize that a lot of these countries have a lot of tourists that have a lot of financing, and they're more than ready to come into Belize.
South
They wanna
Americans,
see.
believe me,
Yes.
I've met who,
So I
who
think
want to look at
that,
Belize.
the best step forward will be for the government to engage the private sector and to have serious discussions and kind of develop an action plan as to how
Yes.
we're going to address it and a timeline.
Because we do have IT people
Yes.
who may be able to assist to ensure, to facilitate what you're mentioning easier.
A word of caution, before we run out of time.
Sure.
Our stakeholders in the tourism industry, in particular in the overnight industry, they have invested years of their lives,
Yes.
a lot of money into the industry. creating so many jobs and indirect benefits and opportunities, etc., etc. Yes. Now, we know that many of our other industries have been on the decline.
Yeah.
Banana. We worry about sugar.
Citrus.
So tourism, and I will be the first one to say that we need to diversify. We shouldn't only be depending on an industry that can be very fickle.
That's
and could put, if God forbid something terrible happens, and or in the tourism industry suffers, we can just imagine what that will do for economy.
Yes.
So if we keep increasing taxes on the industry, and as other countries have determined through research, it affects arrivals,
yes.
and at some point our government says, oh man, we messed up, we'll repeal it. It doesn't end there.
Yeah.
Because since the tourism industry is the mainstay of our economy right now, and if that suffers, it will take us a while to get out of that rut. Unlike, let's say, Holland, the example that we use,
Yes.
that depend on their dairy products and many other industries.
Yes.
Not only tourism. They didn't feel the blow as we would feel it.
Yes.
And so that is why I repeat it again. It is critical for us, even when we're in a bind under this fiscal tightening measures. We understand the situation is dire, right? But even so, that does not
but it has
take
only
away the government responsibility to look at these things very carefully.
Yeah, because this particular tax, increase in tax, just went in, just went into
Yes.
legislation. What was it? Where
Well,
are
it's
we?
going
like,
to be effective May 1st.
oh,
Yes,
effective
yes,
May.
yes.
Okay,
May
so
1st.
there's still time.
Oh yes, there's still time.
There's still time, and they need to look. I mean, they need to look at those. And it's not that it's only the tourism industry that will be affected. When a tourist comes to Belize, you get the construction industry. The construction people, they start to have more jobs. They can build this here, build that there. More people may want to come live here. They like Belize, they retire here. I mean, of course, food. So you get the people who deals with food, agriculture. These people eat nice and healthy. They want their different crops. Crop production could be increased. The point is, there's many different things like manufacturing.
Yes.
I won't even go into all the little small, the least small one where give their services, you know, to tourists. So you're talking about a direct, and it really just trickles out. It trickles out. It's not something that's just to one entity. It really trickles out. So if I won't want us to go and say, okay, well, we will go ahead with this tax. We already said that it's going to be implemented, so let's do it. And then thereafter, we fall into, I won't say an abyss. Maybe I'm going way down an abyss. Maybe an economic abyss in some view. I mean, you never know what could happen. We heard about 2 million less tourists for Australia.
Right after, no, for Holland, right
For
after they
for
increase
Holland,
their fee.
For Holland, when they increase their
They
fee.
repeal it and it bunks right back up.
We can't deal with those numbers or anything close to that. We could never, I mean, we would not be able to withstand, you know, that what is that? That would be like a tsunami at us.
No, it would
We
really hurt
can't
us.
deal with
It
it
would
as a
really hurt
hurricane.
us, yeah.
So before that is done, I think that it hasn't been implemented. It hasn't come into effect. So perhaps, and I'm hoping that this matter will be looked at very seriously. And I'm hoping entities even Tropic here, because they go abroad and they have to look at the situation. They also will put their 2 cents, because they also go out and they're not only here, they go, they take their planes and so forth. So they are also a part of this discussion. So the airline industry.
Exactly.
Okay. I know that time is running up. So I would want to give you, you know, a minute each.
Well, first of all, I think I would just like to point out that we cannot take for granted, because the tourism is the #1 industry right now in Belize, that they're not factors and dynamics that are having negative impacts and that have raised various concerns to the industry. There's so much elements that have to be considered. So we gotta be careful on the decisions that we make in terms of anything that's going to generate any negative impacts on the industry. We got to be careful, and we got to begin to be more proficient in having proper data supporting decisions.
Yes, I agree.
No, I just want to reiterate what John said. To mention that as an association, we not only represent our 300 plus members, close to 400 members, but the industry as a whole. BTIA is about promoting and advocating for responsible tourism development, and along those lines, I think it is interesting to note very quickly. You mentioned agriculture. We have seen that there is tremendous potential in agro-tourism, linking agriculture with tourism.
Yes.
And it's more and more people are starting to talk about it.
Tell the viewers agritourism, because when people go on a farm, there's many people who may even come from North America, have never been on a farm, they can come right here to Belize and they go on a farm, and that's a part of agritourism.
Right, there's an initiative that I am really hoping can come to fruition, which deals with some farmers cooperatives in the Belize district.
Yes.
And linking up with our chapters in San Pedro and Kikaker, not only for them to have a market to sell their products directly and benefit more as a result, but bring visitors from San Pedro and Kikaker onto the mainland, onto their farms, hands-on, eat what they pick.
Yes.
The potential is enormous. We have Altunha nearby in the Belize district area.
Yeah, Belize River Valley would definitely. They would definitely.
So there are so many things that we can do in product development, tourism product development, to expand the pie. Not only cut up the pie into smaller pieces,
medical
but expand
tourism and all of these. So government has to look at this, that there's different ways that it can increase taxes from the same tourism industry, but they would do it in a different manner, not close the door, not hike up the entrance fee so that nobody or limited numbers come in. More so, you open it so that people come in and they spend much more. Mexico, it's been said for such a long time, it's about time, and I know this government has the capacity to be able to get it done. Open up the doors for Mexicans to come in. Open it up. You have my good friend Oliver Delson, he's right there. Oliver is there. Oliver can get it done as well. All right. We have excellent IT people in Belize, so they can also assist in terms of whatever medium and use. I want to, before we go, I want to say thank you to our guests, Senator Osmany Salas, President and NGO Senator. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, Executive Director of BTIA, Mr. John Burgos. Thank you. Very learned individuals in this area, so we have to listen to them. I've been asked by the Queen of the Bay, Belize City Branch, I also hold that. So Miss Doretta Valera has asked me to do a call for applicants to contest for the Belize District Queen of the Bay pageant. The deadline for the Belize District is the 31st May 2017. And you can contact her, Doretta Valera. She's the secretary for the Belize District Branch at 622-7699, or Ms. Jennifer Smith at YWCA. I want to also thank our sponsors, Zetro International. All right, so make sure you visit Zetro when you need any Western Union. Utilize Zetro International. Universal Hardware, they have all kinds of hardware. They have motorcycles, TV, you name it. Universal has all of those. Smart Belize, you want your services, make sure you're well connected. Smart Belize is there for you. Moya Shepherd and Company Limited, who deals with real estate and whatever you need, also vacation rentals and different areas we can assist with, as well as the entire different real estate services. We want to thank these entities for supporting this initiative of educating and empowering our Belizean people. I want to thank, as usual, our viewers. You've been very faithful to this show, and to our new viewers who are now watching in. I want to thank you for helping to make this show a success. I know that we're often on Facebook, so we're going to make sure that we're on Facebook. I believe we're on Facebook for Creme Television, and we'll post it on YouTube as well, so you can review it. Thank you to our production team. Thank you very much. You've done an awesome job. The Creme television station, thank you very much. I've been a part of them for quite some time, and I want to thank you. You continue to do a wonderful job, Creme television. To my little son and daughter, Kelvin and Natalia, thank you for inspiring me to do this show. Okay, you can watch the Sinaida Moya Show YouTube channel and the Sinaida Moya Show Facebook page for a posting of this show. Continue to support the Belize Tourism Industry Association. They're the ones who are protecting our tourism industry and our own livelihood to a great extent. So thank you. Join us next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here at Creme Television for another live broadcast. Until then, have a safe and blessed week. God bless you all.